Today I'm going to talk about some stuff that's new and different. A lot of people have been asking how to upgrade their Ender3 for dual extrusion. Now I've created a lot of Thingiverse parts that you're going to need for your SKR version 1.4 and also for the print head to attach. With this tutorial though, I have to warn you that the actual print head always needs to be cooled and monitored when printing for your safety and the safety of others around you. Now, a lot of these parts I'm not going to cover a lot of information on because you can decipher most of it from the actual video, and the other answers will be in my playlist that you can try out for yourself. Also, I'll be putting Amazon affiliate links in the description for your convenience, and no one's paying me or sponsoring me to do this tutorial. Here's the case that I had to remove from the Ender3 in order to do an upgrade. Now, if you look at the X, Y, and Z axes, you can see that there's a little bit of rubber cement that they used to connect the actual NEMA stepper motor wiring, and they've done that throughout the board to keep things secure. So you're going to have to carefully work free your connectors in order to set them up for the upgrade. Here's the case that I developed for the Ender3. Notice how you can integrate in an SKR version 1.4. It'll also take an SKR version 1.3. I did have to reroute the cable in order for you to be able to connect to this, but if you need this model, you can always download it from Thingiverse and print it out for yourself. It comes with a lid. And one last thing, I will not be covering how to do the actual steppers in this video. But in this case, I'll be using the TMC 2208s, and I'll leave a link in the upper right hand corner so that you can review how to install that yourself. So now we're actually going to program the board. Now keep in mind that while this is installed in the printer, you won't have it on USB power and you'll have to use direct power. For now, I have it set for USB, so the other two pins would be for direct power, which are over here. But we can't program via USB right now, so I'm moving them over until we have direct power connected. So I'm going to slide this in right here, and I'm going to program it now. Okay, as always, I start with showing you that it's got firmware.cur on it from the last time it was loaded. You'll see why in a second, but I'm going to go over to VS Code. I'm actually going to load the Marlin, so I'm going to do an open folder. Then I'm going to go to my downloads folder, my Marlin folder, then one folder deeper, and click select folder. Now that that's loaded, we have to set this up. And the current board that I'm using in this is actually the SKR 1.4 Turbo. But in the actual printer, I'm using the SKR 1.4. So I'm going to show you how to do it with the Turbo right now, and I'll also show you a little bit later how to deal with either. But we're going to go to boards.h. We're going to open that up. We're going to search on SKR. And as you can see, this would be the SKR that is not turbo, but because we're using the turbo, we have to go down to here someplace. So let me find it. It's actually probably listed someplace other than it normally is. It's actually the LPC 11769. So it should be in this list right here. So I'm going to copy that. Then I'm going to close out of boards.h. I'm going to minimize that, minimize source. I'm going to go to configuration.h, and I'm going to do a search on motherboard. I'm going to highlight the ramps over here and paste over it, and that'll be for the turbo. I'm going to leave the speed the same for the moment, but I'm going to change the serial port to -1, and then I'm going to remove the comment for the second serial port and change that to 0 because I'm using the actual display known as the E3 by Big Tree Tech for my touchscreen display. So next thing that we want to do after we get those set is actually set up our extruders. Now, because I'm using 2 different colors, I'm using 2 different extruders. Now, the print head that I'm actually using has 1 single nozzle, so I need to remove the comment to enable that. So now that we have all of that set, we actually have to check on our bed temperature sensor, because normally it's default without a bed. So this is where your thermal settings for your thermistor are set, and there's a list of thermistors that you can use. In this case, I'm going to use the default one, just like the temperature sensor on our extruder, or hot end, pardon me. So I'm going to do the bed sensor as 1 as well. Next, I'm going to have to set up our steppers. So I'm going to search on A4988, and down here, we actually want to define what our stepper drivers are. So I'm going to remove the comment for the X, the Y, the Z, and then I'm going to do E0 and E1. Now, all of these are going to be TMC 2208s. So what we need to do is find it in the list here. So there's standalone, which we don't want, but we want this. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste in all the places where we've removed the comments. And now those are all configured. Next, we need to scroll down and do our default steps per axis. So down here is the actual value for that. Now, they're already defaulted to 80, which is approximately in the neighborhood that you want to be. But for these 2 values, being the Z stepper, it's going to be slightly different. It's going to be 416.88. That's what I computed for it. And if you're using the exact same steppers, like the one that I suggested in the description with the Amazon affiliate link, then you can set these both to be the same. Otherwise, you've got to do them separately. So the tuning that I came up for this was actually 94. So now that we have that set, the only thing we have to worry about now is actually the inversion of our Xdir. So I'm going to search on X_dir. And as you can see right now, we have the direction set to false. We're actually going to change that to true. And then down here, I actually had to invert the direction of my steppers, the way that they're plugged in. You can also do this by flipping the plug if you've got one of the flat DuPont connectors. But in my case, I didn't have it for all of them. So I had to change these both to true as well. So that's for the 2 steppers for the extruder. So now that we have that set, we actually have to set the bed size. So I'm going to search on bed underscore, and that brings us to bed size. And the bed size is actually 230 by 230 for the X and the Y. And then the Z is actually 250 on the Ender3. So now that we have that all set, we need to go over to our advanced configuration. And there's a couple of other steps that we need to do in here. Because the way that I hooked up my fan, I'm using the second extruder in order to control the actual auto fan. So I'm going to search on auto fan. And down here, this is where we can actually set the actual configuration for our fan to turn on automatically. So I'm going to change the auto fan for this to the pin number, which is going to be P2_04. And that'll set our pin. Now when the actual temperature is reached, it'll go on. So I'm going to change it to 75 degrees Celsius. And the fan speed you can vary, but I suggest probably around 225 is a safe bet for when you actually turn on the fan. So now that we have that set, I'm just going to make one other change, and that's to our stepper. So I'm going to search on 800, and this will bring us to our actual settings for our TMC settings on our TMC 2208. So I'm going to say 750 for the value. And I'm going to do that for X. I'm going to do it for Y. I'm going to do it for the Z axis. And I'm also going to do it for E0 and E1. It's more my preference than anything else, but you probably could run these at 800, but I like doing this. So now that we have that changed, we have to set up the platform.io.ini. And if you've watched my tutorials before, you know in this case it's going to be LPC 1769, and that's for the turbo version of the SKR 1.4. If it's a regular SKR 1.4, it will be LPC 1768. And so in order to compile and upload, we're going to press the arrow right here, which will compile and then upload or build and send to our printer. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to take a few moments. Okay, now that it's done compiling, we can see that it's successful. For those that don't know, I had to hit compile a second time for the build because I had something I had to clean out, but it should compile fine. So let's check to see what happened. It obviously copied over as firmware.bin. So this is actually our built file. So I'm going to remove the power. Then I'm going to reconnect the power, and that will load the firmware.current after it completes, as you can see right here. Okay, I wanted to add this step. It's kind of important. I wanted to point out that I'm adding ferrule connectors to some of the fans and my extruder cartridge down here. That's kind of important for the install. It'll protect you from a stray wire, which may cause damage to your board. Now, I also marked down here what the actual voltage looks like when it's red, and the unmarked ones are actually ground. That'll help you prevent a lot of issues. Now, the other advantage that I wanted to show you here is that each one of these cables inside your Ender actually has labels on them for X, Y, and Z. They also have them for your end stops as well. Here's a mock-up of the Ender3's X carriage. It's not exactly the same, but I wanted to show you how I'm actually mounting this mount. So you're going to place this over this right here. This is the part that I put up on Thingiverse. And then you're going to bolt it down with the screws that I included in the description. These would be Amazon affiliate links. And then you'll actually bolt these down like so. Once these are in place, you'll be able to attach your actual hot end for your dual extrusion. So these should go flush. And once again, I need to remind you not to forget about the cooling fan that comes with your hot end. It will mount right here, and all the equipment to do it will be located in the actual kit that comes with it. and you'll bolt right through here. Okay, now I want to show you the final step to preparing your G-code for printing. Now I've already showed you how to install Cura, and I'll include a link in the upper right hand corner. But now I'm going to show you how to actually set up a print. So I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to click the center cone and the base and click open. And after this opens, I'm going to click first on the main cone. For my color, I started with orange, which is the first extruder. So I'm going to click that. Now for the other color, I'm going to click yellow, which is over here. And I'm going to highlight both of these by pressing Control A, then right clicking and going to merge models. Now it's all one model with two different colors. So notice how I start on orange and then it goes through the colors all the way back to orange. That's going to be important in a moment because I have to show you a bug that I found that has to do with the actual hot end. Since there are two extruders that go into it, and there's only one thermistor and one heater cartridge, Cura thinks there are two. So before I show you that, I'm going to show you how to set up the slice. So over here, I'm going to click on this and go to Custom. Now, I'm not currently using a prime block, and the other name for the prime block is a purge block. That would be a block that prints over here that purges the color between layers. I figured out a way to do it as one cone without a purge block. So I'm not going to use that. But I'll show you my temperature settings real quick. So over here, I'm searching on temp. It may take a moment to catch up. But as you can see, I had to equalize the temperatures between the two extruders because Cura still thinks there are two extruders when there's only one extruder or one hot end with one heat cartridge and thermistor. So to prevent that from causing this bug, which I'll show you in just a second, I'm just going to slice the model real quick and save it. I'm going to save this as error so that you can see what's going on. So I'm going to open the folder and I'm going to go to the file name that's called error, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to edit with notepad. Now the issue that I found was that if you search here on M104 T1S0, what's occurring is before it gets to the last layer, so after it finishes printing the color yellow, it's turning off the print head at this point, and the rest of this will not print. So the way to correct this is when you find this command right here, is just highlight it, backspace twice to delete it, and click save. Now if you're worried about your print head turning off, then you can search on M104 S0, and this is what turns off your print head at the very end of your print. Now this comes from inside Cura on your printer settings. So if you click over here and click Manage Printers, you can go into Machine Settings and actually see that this is the ending G code. So the M104 is actually what turns off your print head right here, and it's actually listed right there, or I'm sorry, just above it right there. So that's why it's actually turning off at the very end. So I want to take a moment to thank everybody for watching my tutorial, and please like and subscribe.